Santos Futebol Clube, commonly known as Santos or Peixe, is a Brazilian professional football club based in Vila Belmiro, a bairro in the city of Santos. Despite being primarily an association football team, Santos compete in a number of different sports. It plays in the Paulistão, the State of São Paulo's Premier State League, as well as the Brasileirão, the top tier of the Brazilian Football League system. Santos are one of the only 5 clubs to have never been relegated, along with São Paulo, Flamengo, Internacional and Cruzeiro. The club was founded in 1912 by the initiative of 3 sports enthusiasts from Santos by Raimundo Marques, Mário Ferraz de Campos, and Argemiro de Souza Júnior as a response to the lack of representation the city had in football. Since then, Santos became one of Brazil's most successful clubs, becoming a symbol of Jogo Bonito in football culture, hence the motto tá copyright Técnica e Disciplina. The most recognized Santista anthem is the Leão do Mar written by Mangeri Neto. This was largely thanks to the Peixe's golden generation of the 1960s, which contained players such as Gilmar, Mauro Ramos, Mangeri, Coutinho, Pepe and Pelé. Copyright, named the Athlete of the Century by the International Olympic Committee, and widely regarded among football historians, former players and fans to be the best and most accomplished footballer in the game's history. Os Santos FC, considered by some the best club team of all times, won a total of 24 titles during that decade, including 5 consecutive Brasileirão, a feat that remains unequaled until today. Os Santos FC also became the first squad in the world to win the Continental Treble, winning the Paulistão, the Brasileirão, and the Copa Libertadores in 1962. Santos is the most successful club in the Brasileirão, becoming national champions on 8 occasions, a record they share with Palmeiras. It has also won 20 Paulistão, 3 Copa Libertadores, 2 European South American Cups, 1 Supercopa de Campeões Intercontinentals, 1 Copa CONMEBOL, 1 Copa do Brasil and 1 Recopa Sudamericana. In 1962, Santos became the first club in the world to win 4 out of 4 competitions in a single year, thus completing the quadruple, comprising the aforementioned treble and the European South American Cup. On January 20, 1998, Santos became the first team, in any category in the world, to reach the milestone of 10,000 goals in the entire history of football, scored by Gigino. The Peixe play their home games at the Vila Belmiro, which currently holds up to 20,120 spectators. Santos' regular kit is white shirts, with white shorts, accompanied by white socks. Nike are the kit manufacturers. Santos holds many long-standing rivalries, most notably against São Paulo, Palmeiras and Corinthians. It has contributed many key and famous players towards Brazil's FIFA World Cup squads, including 11 world champions out of its 45 contributors and 2 FIFA World Cup winning captains. In 2013, the club is the second most valuable club in Brazil and Latin America, and 38th most valuable club in the world according to Brand Finance, worth over $65 million. In terms of revenue, Santos is Brazil's 4th richest sports club and one of the biggest football clubs in the world, generating an annual turnover of over $114 million in 2012. History. Birth of Santos FC, 1900 Euro 1912. In the beginning of the 20th century, the city of Santos grew to become of great importance to Brazil. Its port became one of the largest in the world, with coffee, a major product in those times, being the most exported product. With the influx of income, the wealthy socialites of the city became increasingly interested in having the city represented in sports. Being a port, water sports such as rowing were generally the most practiced activity by the city's youth, but the city had teams strong enough to compete in the Campeonatos Paulista or Paulistão, with Clube Atlas copyright Tico Internacional and Sport Club Americano being the 2 strongest representatives. Football was introduced to Santos in 1902 via the Instituto Presbiteriano Mackenzie, and the students created the 2 aforementioned clubs as a result. However, Atla copyright Tico Internacional dissolved in 1910 and Americano moved to Sao Paulo in 1911. With the city students dissatisfied at this turn of events, a meeting was held at the headquarters of the Concordia Club, with the aim of creating a football team. The conference, which lasted 14 hours, was spearheaded by 3 sportsmen from the city, Raimundo Marques, Francisco Massachusetts, Rio Ferraz de Campos and Argemiro de Souza Júnior. During the meeting, there was doubt as to the name that should be given to the club. Several suggestions emerged: Africa Futebol Clube, Associa Picavoltão Esportiva Brasil, Concacube da Dia Futebol Clube, among others. But the participants unanimously approved the proposal of Edmundo Jorge de Araujo, Santos Futebol Clube. Thus, the club was formally born on April 14, 1912. Hours before the RMS Titanic sank into the Atlantic Ocean. As is commonly said, one giant sank into the ocean, and on the same day another one was born. The club's first president was Cezino Patuska. Early years, 1912 Euro 1935. The club's first practice match took place on June 23, 1914 at the Vila Macuco field, against a local club called Theresa. Santos won 2-1. The first Santista goal was scored by Anacleto Ferramenta da Silva, with Gerald Moreira Ribeiro adding another one later on. The first official match took place on September 15 of that same year, beating Santos Athletic Club 3-2. Arnaldo Silveira, one of the original founders of Santos, scored the first official goal of the club. The Alvinegro Praiano took part in their first Campeonato Paulista in 1913. Being thrashed 8-2 by Germacendia on June 1. Although Santos earned their first victory against Corinthians, a 3-6 away win at the Parque Antarctica, the 5-1 and 6-1 thumpings that Santos suffered at the hands of SC Internacional and Americano, respectively, and the high cost of travel, forced the team to abandon the tournament and make much-needed improvements. However, in 1913 the Campeonato Santista was first played, with the Alvinegro earning their first ever title after winning all 6 matches, scoring 35 goals and conceding only 7. In 1914, due to an internal financial crisis, Santos only played friendly matches, winning all 7 of them. In 1915, Santos changed their name temporarily to União Futebol Clube in order to compete in another city tournament due to budgeting reasons. Even so, Santos still went on to earn another title, their second in 3 years. With economic stability on hand, the Vila Belmiro Sports Park was inaugurated on October 12, 1916. That same year, Santos returned to compete in another Campeonato Paulista, finishing in a much improved 5th place. Between the 1917 and 1926 seasons, Santos was recognized as a solid and talented team, but one that could not offer a true challenge for the state title, finishing no higher than 4th place. That changed in 1927 when the tradition of the Alvinegro became defined during the 1920s, the discovery and creation of young talent. The team, known as Oitake dos 100 Goals, was led by the first major club idol, Aracan Patuska, son of the first president of Santos. With the Aracan Patuska was the first Santista to participate in a World Cup, as a member of the Brazilian national team squad in the FIFA World Cup in 1930, the first World Cup. He played 1 match against Yugoslavia. Santos finished as runners-up in 1927, 1928 and 1929, scoring 100 goals in 16 games in the 1927 season, resulting in an incredible rate of 6.25 goals per match. The milestone of 100 goals was a result of work characteristics that later would become an excerpt in the official anthem of the club, tar copyright Técnica e Disciplina. Santos entered a period of irregular campaigns, coinciding with the club's transition to professionalism. In 1933 the president of Santos publicly declared Santos a professional side for the first time. This was followed by the club's first great success in 1935. During that season, the club prepared heavily for the Paulista '0 with 14 friendlies, winning 7, losing 4 and drawing 3 matches. The 10-1 thrashing of Hispania at the hands of Santos provided the highlight of its pre-season preparations. On the last match of the state competition, Santos defeated Corinthians 2-0 at the Estadio Parque São Jorge, Corinthians' home ground at the time, to win their first state title ever, thanks to goals by Raul and an experienced Arakan Petusca. This historic consecration sealed Santos' first major title and paved the way for future generations to follow. Although Santos failed to retain the state title next season, the club remained undefeated in international matches during the 1930s, with 7 wins and 1 draw. The most overwhelming win occurred against the French national football team, who arrived at Santos on July 30 after the FIFA World Cup in Uruguay and decided to use the stop to play against a local team, handedly losing 6-1 with 4 goals from Peixe Section O. Claiming they faced the Celia Picavolt Poundo rather than the club, the suspicious French were invited to the clubhouse to prove that the team that had just faced them was not the Brazilian team in disguise. The road towards the second Paulista Poundo, 1936–1955, following their triumph in the 1935 Paulista Poundo, many key players of the winning squad left or retired soon afterwards, depleting the club of its veterans. Santos would finish in 4th place in their failed attempt to defend the state title in 1936. Petusca's departure in 1937 proved to be the closing chapter of his generation and the beginning of dismal campaigns in the Paulista tournament for the following 10 years, finishing no higher than 5th place. However, Santos' fortunes changed when former goalkeeper Athea copyright Jorge Curie became club president in 1946 and immediately sought out to reconquer the state title. After getting the club's finances in order, he sanctioned a tour into the Brazilian northern and northeastern regions to face the top teams in Bila copyright M, Fortaleza, Natal and Recife, among other cities, and give the upcoming generation much-needed experience. Santos soundly defeated many of the region's top clubs such as Paysandu, Fortaleza EC, ABC, Santa Cruz, etc. Led by the club's second chronological idol Antonino, the club went on undefeated in what was, until then, the longest football trip any Brazilian club has taken. It lasted from November 29, 1946 to February 2, 1947 with Santos obtaining 12 wins and 3 draws. The leading goal scorers of the tour were Caxambu, with 19 goals, and Adel Fries, scoring 18. The club managed to finish in 2nd place in the 1948 edition of the Paulista Poundo, thanks to Antonino, Pinu and Odair dos Santos. Odair became the club's season topscorer with 20 goals. He will repeat this feat for the following 3 seasons. Odair and Antonino would also help the club finish 3rd in the 1950 edition of the state competition. This was the first time Santos had 2 top 3 finishes in 3 seasons in the Paulista Poundo since the Oitake dos 100 goals generation. Santos also participated in the Torneio Rio Euro São Paulo Paulo for the first time in 1952, finishing in 3rd place overall. The arrivals of younger prospects such as Formiga, Manga, Tite, Zito and Vasconcelos coincided with the retirements of Odair and Antonino in 1952 and 1953 respectively, ensuring the club had the quality to maintain its pursuit on the state championship. Antonino would become the club's assistant manager in 1954 with Lula becoming the club's manager that same year. It was in 1955 when Santos finished building its base and establishments that would make it a success in the future. Despite starting that year's Paulista Poundo with a mediocre 0-0 draw against Noroeste, the club would go on to remain undefeated for the first 11 matches in the competition, which included a 7-1 victory over Jabaquara, the heaviest defeat they would inflict in that competition's edition. A 4-2 defeat to Guarani and an 8-0 drumming by Portuguese brought setbacks and instability. A 3-1 loss to São Paulo and consecutive losses to São Paulo Bento and Corinthians put the club's aspirations to the state title in danger. However, the club's strong team spirit, the goals of Emmanuel Del Vecchio, its relatively stable campaign and the 2-1 victory over Tabata copyright, Santos' last match in the competition, ensured the club would win their 2nd state title ever, the first in 20 years. Del Vecchio's 38 goals were the club's highest season tally since Petusca's 53 in 1927. He was also the Paulista Poundo's top scorer with 23 goals. An infamous club anthem, Le Pound O du Mar, was created in order to commemorate this triumph. In order to build upon the moment and provide a capable defense of the state title, Curie set in motion a series of plans and contracts after predicting that several of its veterans might opt to leave the club in a repeat of the aftermath in 1935. He secured the services of several established players such as Zito. Curie also invested to keep several young potentials like Pepe in the upcoming Paga Poundo. The club president also gave Lula leeway to scout talented individuals who were trying out for the club. Perhaps the greatest signing Curie approved of was that of a 15-year-old boy brought over to Vila Belmiro by Waldemar de Brito. De Brito, who was a manager of Bairro Âtlético Clube's junior squad, won 3 consecutive São Paulo State Youth Championships between 1954 and 1956 with the child. The boy, called Edson Arantes do Nascimento and who would be better known as Pelé Copyright in the near future, was the main driving force behind those victories. The contract between Santos and the young Pelé Copyright was finalized in June 1956. Golden Era, Os Santisticos, 1956 Euro 1974. The first Continental Treble in the world and the Pentacampeonato. After 50 years Santos began to be seen as the best team in the world. When Pelé Copyright made his debut in the Campeonato Paulista in 1957, the team was already twice state champion. The King had as fellow players Zito, Paga Poundo, Formiga, Ha Copyright LVIO, Edar Rosa Pinto, Urabeta Poundo, Tite and Pepe. Therefore, it is true that Santos were lucky to have Pelé Copyright. He was also fortunately only just beginning his career at Santos. Santos won the 3rd state title in 50 years, the magical year of 1958 a Euro in which Brazil became world champion in Sweden, with Zito Santos, Pelé Copyright and Pepe, and won in spectacular fashion. The team scored 143 goals in 38 games, averaging 3.76 per game. Only 40 goals were scored against them. Pelé Copyright set a record that has never been equaled in any state competition in the county. He scored no less than 58 goals, an astonishing total for one player. Traditional rivals were massacred in 1958, particularly 10-0 against the Nacional. In addition to state titles, the Santos won the Rio São Paulo in 1959, beating Vasco in the final by 3-0 with 2 goals by Coutinho when a lad of 16. Coutinho also scored 5 goals against Ponte Preta, and Santos won the game by 12-1 even without Pelé Copyright. No other team had a prevalence in Brazilian football as great as Santos in the 1960s. The club won 8 titles, 6 Brazilian championships, 2 Copa Libertadores, 2 Intercontinental Cups, 3 Rio São Paulo, a South American Recopa, a World and numerous international tournaments. A poll in the magazine El Gráfico saw dozens of experts from South America and Europe choose as the world champion best team of all time the Santos side of 1962-63, whose time base was formed by Gilmar, Lima, Moro, Calvert and Dalmo. Menga Elvio and Zito, Dorval, Coutinho, Peel and Pepe. Coach, Luis Alonso Perez, Lula. Reprioritization, rejuvenation and renaissance of the Globetrotters, in demand worldwide, Santos became the first globe-trotting football team and played exhibition matches in dozens of countries. A war in Africa was stopped so that the two sides could see Pelé Copyright's team play. Under pressure from the CBD, which the team did not want to risk their star players in unsafe stadiums in South America, Santos did not participate in the editions of the Libertadores 1966, 1967 and 1969. Players from Santos and Botafogo formed the basis of the Brazilian World Cup sides in Chile and Mexico. On 2 occasions a Euro against Germany and England a Euro the national team had 8 Santos players in the team. In 6 games of qualifying for the 1970 World Cup, the Beasts of the Saldanha played with 6 Santos players: Carlos Alberto, Jama Diaz, Joel Campbell, Rildo, Pelé Copyright and Edu. The influence of Santos was so great that the defense played with the national team the same numbers that were used at Santos: right back with the shirt 4, right centre back with the 2nd, left centre back with the 6th and left back with 3. Finally, left winger Antonio Simão Micrones, Benfica and Portugal said, "I compare the Santos 62 team with the national team of Brazil in 70. These are the 2 best football teams I have ever seen." The 70 side is the confirmation of a game model that Santos already demonstrated long ago. Epilogue: O Santos Tico's legacy, state champion in 1973, still with Pelé copyright in the team, and again in 1978, driven by the amazing Peter Boystown, Jueri, Joe Poundo Paulo and Nilton Batata. The Santos of the 1970s were no longer just appreciated for the refinement of their football and became a symbol of passion and rapture. Their fans, who for a long time could not compete with the teams of the capital, steadily grew in number and started to compete with the massive Morumbi crowd, and significantly passed Sao Paulo Paulo and Palmeiras. Intermittency: 1974 Euro 1994, when it seemed that the fate of the club would be hopelessly compromised by debt made millions for the purchase of the luxurious Spa Park, Santos came back to be only 11 shirts who fought and drew crowds. In one of the worst moments of its history, which resulted in the loss of the Spa Park and all that was invested in him, Santos rose a charismatic worship, which had its greatest asset in his legions of fans. The period began with the Santos became vice-champions Sao Paulo Paulo of 1980, and, interestingly, the executioner of this final Santos Euro Sao Paulo Paulo fan striker Serginho Euros, who would become the idol of the decade's Santos. Passionate Team Belmiro since childhood, the irascible Tsar copywriter Gio Bernardino only felt at home when he was hired by President Milton Teixeira to the team that would dispute the Brazilian 1993. Opportunist, kicking strong and big stamina, Serginho was the terror of the defenses at the Brazilian Championship and became the top scorer with 22 goals. The team took the runner-up, to win in Sao Paulo Paulo, Rio lose and be overtaken on goal for Flamengo. Miss Joy did not come and Brazil did not take long. The following year the team became champions Sao Paulo Paulo in a rally point competition, ending the dream of reaching the 3rd championship. Corinthians. In the decisive game of ecstasy to Santos, the team won by Corinthians won a Euro 0, Serginho goal in the second half. Santos striker was again the top scorer, this time tied with Chiquinho, Botafogo, with 16 goals. The renewed PEX, 1995 a Euro 2008, in the 1990s Santos won only 2 titles, the Rio a Euro Sao Paulo Paulo tournament in 1997 and the Copa Comebol in 1998. In the final of the National Championship of 1995 Santos faced Botafogo, but could not beat the team from Rio de Janeiro, the Santos' stars, in 1995. For fans of Santos, the outcome determined by the referee, who cancelled a supposedly valid goal by Kamando Kaya and allowed Botafogo striker Tarlio Maravilla to score while in an offside position. The new chairman Marcelo Teixeira, son of former chairman Milton Teixeira, tried to prepare Santos for domination in the 21st century. No expense was spared to build a complete squad, with names as Rinco Cubden, Marcelino Carioca, Edmundo, Marcio Santos, Carlos Germano, Valdo and Galvão. Unfortunately these big names could not translate their reputation into excellence on the pitch, resulting in a runner-up and a semi-final loss in the state championships of 2000 and 2001. In the National League Santos performed subpar, with an 18th place in 2000 and a 15th in 2001. By 2002 the big names had left and financial space was narrow. This forced Santos to look at their youth squads for reinforcements, hoping they could prevent an even worse campaign leading to relegation. The new head coach Emerson Lee Poundo would prove he could do much more. In a more than reasonable campaign Santos finished 8th in the regular season and thus qualified for the playoffs. In the quarter-finals the São Paulo of the young Kaká and Luis Fabiano was eliminated over 2 legs, and in the semi-finals Grêmio was effectively knocked out with a 3-0 victory in Vila Belmiro. With Robinho and Diego as the most important of Meninos da Vila, Corinthians was beaten in both of the final legs and thus Santos conquered its 7th national championship. The pedalada, one of the most disseminated tricks nowadays, was popularized by Robinho in the final match. In 2003 Santos continued its excellent performance, but came second in the first-ever Brazilian national championship without a post-season playoff to determine the champion. The next year Santos returned to glory, however. In a year where fans felt their team was being intentionally hampered by referees, lost the right to play in its own stadium on various occasions, and the kidnapping of Robinho's mother, Santos had an impressive campaign. Only 2 matches before the end of the competition Santos was able to surpass Atlético Paranaense, who had been on top of the table for the majority of the season. In the last match Santos did not crumble and beat Vasco da Gama 2-1 for its 8th title. With Robinho, David and manager Vanderlei Luxemburgo leaving Santos in 2005, the team was unable to win more titles that year. Despite leading figures leaving, Santos was headed for a 6th-place finish until as Vitor Paulo. Upon discovery that referee Dilson Pereira de Carvalho participated in manipulating results, all matches he led were played over again. Santos for a Euro-2 win against Corinthians thus became a 2-3 loss, which meant Santos dropped to the 11th place and gave its rival, Corinthians, the championship at cost of Internacional. In 2006 Santos was 4th in Brazil, securing itself a spot in the Copa Libertadores, and won the Paulista Championship for the first time since 1984. In 2007 Santos left an excellent impression in the state championship, losing its first match only in the first leg of the final yet winning the title through a second-leg victory nonetheless. In the national championship Santos had a reasonable campaign leading the team to 2nd place, albeit 15 points behind champions São Paulo. With again various big names leaving, 2008 proved to be a troublesome year for Santos. Only thanks to an incredible comeback in the last few games relegation could be avoided. In 2008 Santos played Copa Libertadores again. They endured until quarter-finals, when they were beaten by America. The second Santista, 2009 Euro 2013. With the recurrence of financial problems, Santos recruited young players. In 2009, Neymar and Paulo Henri Ganso joined the professional team. Neymar signed with the team when he was 13. Ganso came from Paysandu, a northern team, when he was 15. They started to play together and developed a very strong bond. In 2010, they led a great team, which is the base of the actual squad. The team that won Campeonato Paulista this year was formed by Felipe Parra, Edu Dracena, Derval and ʻklubi. Wesley, Aruca and Ganso. Neymar, André Copyright, and the repatriated Robinho. They also won Copa do Brasil 2010, beating Vitor Ria in the finals, but with an overwhelming campaign. For example, they beat Naverense 10-0, which gave them the status of Santista again. This team is also known for the irreverent game style and the dancing celebrations. 2011 was also a good year for the club. It raised its revenue with marketing and rights, mainly because of Neymar's success. Santos traded away some players from the previous year's team, but maintained some of the main players. Also, some other named players come from Europe to Peixe's squad, like Elano, Alan Kardk and Ibsen. This year Santos won the Campeonato Paulista, beating 2 of its biggest rivals, São Paulo and Corinthians. The main team was formed by Rafael Cabral, Danilo, Edu Dracena, Derval, ʻklubi. Aruca, Adriano, Elano, Ganso, Neymar and Borges. This team also won the Copa Libertadores, beating P+± a role in the finals. In December, Santos traveled to Japan and finished in the 2nd position in the FIFA Club World Cup, beaten by Barcelona. In 2012 Santos kept the two-title per year ratio, winning the state championships against Guarani and the Recopa against Universidad de Chile. The team started to fragmentate, and saw the departures of Ganso, Borges, Elano and other key players. 2013 marked the end of the latest Santistico era. Without achieving the fourth Paulistão in a row, the eventual negotiations and departure of Neymar, the coach Mauricio Ramalho and the goalkeeper Rafael Cabral ended up leaving Santos as a shadow of its latest victorious installment. Santos ended the 2013 season in 7th place and had the best finish of any team from the state of São Paulo. At the end of the season, interim manager Claudinho Oliveira was let go of by the club on mutual terms and Santos hired Oswaldo de Oliveira to begin in 2014. 2014 a Euro present. In 2014, Santos began the year competing in the Paulistão and completing several signings, including the most expensive player ever bought by Santos, Leandro de Maia. On February 1 Gabriel scored Santos' 12,000th goal in a €5-1 routing over Botafogo SP. Despite playing an enthusiastic football during the tournament, Santos was defeated in the final round by 4th division side Ituano on penalty kicks, eventually finishing runner-up. Crest and Colours. The first colours chosen for the new club were white, azure blue and golden lemon as in homage to Dia Club. But the difficulty to fabricate the colours on the uniform during those times forced a board meeting a year after the club's foundation. Pelé Paul suggested switching the official colours to white and black. According to Paul, the colour white represents peace and black represents nobility. It received wide approval from the club members and the president of Santos, Raimundo Marques, based the club on the new colours. Since the club's foundation, Santos have had 8 main crests, though all underwent minor variations. In 1912, Santos adopted a black and white striped shield, with one of the early leather footballs in the middle and a diagonal band with the letters SFBC. In order to pay homage to Dia Club, the club used a crest that incorporated 3 golden lemon letters, the letters S, F and C, in the center of an azure-blue circle. At the end of 1912, the crest was remade with a white band around the circle. The white band was surrounded by a golden lemon border. The letters were colored white with golden lemon serving as its outside borders. Due to the difficulty of creating these colors consistently, the crest was rebranded to a white badge with black borders and the letters SFC colored black. Later in 1913, the crest was redesigned as a badge inside a globe showing longitude and latitude lines as well as the equator. The badge had a black, diagonal band with SFC in white text. The top half above the band was white with a leather ball at the top left corner. The bottom half was a black and white striped background. Above the badge was a crown. During 1915, the club temporarily changed its name to Santos Futebol Clube and were forced to create a temporary crest for that year. The crest was an escutcheon with a white band that read Santos FC and a black background. In 1925, the globe and crown were removed from the crest and it took its future form, only going through a remodeling in 2005. Sponsorship. Like many major football clubs around the world, Santos is sponsored by many corporations. Since 1979, Santos has had 38 different sponsors, with Reina being the club's first kit manufacturer. ʻklubi, a Brazilian retail chain which specializes in furniture and home appliances, became the first sponsor for the Peixe. The club is currently primarily sponsored by Nike. The team has also many sponsors that invest in the club as well. Many of those are nationally based but have expanded to other nations. The current sponsors are Cera, Core Plastic, Minds Idiomas, CSU, Netshoes, Brahma and Coca-Cola. Stadiums. Soon after its foundation, Santos held their training in a field located in the district of Macuco. As the pitch did not meet the minimum size standards to dispute official matches, Santos played on the Igreja Coroa Picavolta de Maria pitch in Ana Costa Avenue. The field, however, was also used by other clubs in town. In 1915, The situation reached its breaking point when Santos had constant conflicts with other city clubs on when a field could be used, forcing the club to reject several requests for international friendlies. To solve the problem, the leaders began searching for land in the city. On May 31, 1916, a General Assembly approved the purchase of an area of 16,500 square meters, in the neighborhood of Vila Belmiro. On October 12 of that year, the inauguration of the Vila Belmiro Sports Park. The first game was held 10 days later, against Ipiranga for the 1916 Campeonato Paulista, which Santos won 2-1. Adolfo Millan Jr. scored the first ever goal on that stadium. The capacity has changed frequently, peaking at 32,989 in a 0-0 draw between Santos and Corinthians for the 1964 Campeonato Paulista. Since then, there have been a number of reductions due to modernizations. The last change was a new illumination system being installed on January 27, 1998, with an illumination level of 1200 lux, more than the FIFA minimum recommendation. The Vila Belmiro was one of the venues of the 1949 Copa Arma copyright Rica, hosted the 1962 Copa Libertadores final and the 1998 Copa CONMEBOL final. It has also hosted a Copa do Brasil final in 2010. Due to its relative low capacity, Santos has used other stadiums for high-profile matches such as the Estadio Palestra Italia, Pacaembu and Morumbi, all located in São Paulo, and the Maracanã Pound in Rio de Janeiro. Current Santos president Luis Alvaro Ribeiro and other club directors are agreeing on building a stadium in a city nearby Santos called ʻklubi, a stadium for 40,000 people which would become Santos' home field for almost 70% of the games during the season, which would increase the team's profit. In October 2005, the Centro de Treinamento Rei Pelé copyright was inaugurated. Located in the Jabaquara neighborhood, the training ground, one of the most modern in Brazil, includes medical and training facilities for the first team and a hotel, Recanto dos Alvinegros. The Centro de Treinamento Meninos da Vila, located in the Saboa Cube neighborhood, constitutes two fields of equal size to the Vila Belmiro, and it is intended for the training and development of players. The two fields are named in homage to the revelation of players Diego and Robinho. It was inaugurated in August 2006. Brand. The core strength of Santos's global brand is often attributed to Lula's success in leading Os Santisticos, which drew worldwide acclaim. The iconic team included Gilmar, Mauro, Menga Lvio, Coutinho, Pepe and Pelé copyright. This attention often generates greater interest in off the field, with the popularity of the club and brand spanning 5 continents across the globe. Many domestic and international clubs were founded in homage to Santos. In Macapá, Santos Futebol Clube do Macapá was founded in 1973. In João Pessoa, Santos Futebol Clube do João Pessoa was founded in 1949. In Viana, Angola, Santos Futebol Clube de Angola was founded in 2002. In Porto Alegre, Santos Futebol Clube de Alegrete also took after its Paulista model. Santos FC. From Providence, Guyana is another example of the popularity of the infamous brand of the club. Kingston Santos Futebol Clube, 4 times national champions of Jamaica, pays tribute not only to the club, by using its name and crest, but also to the Brazilian national team by replacing the white color on the badge with yellow. The Santos FC Academy in Oak Park, California is a youth soccer academy in the United States that uses the club's name in tribute. In Iwata, Japan, Santos FC Soccer Academy Japan has grown in popularity since its creation in 1993, having categories from the ages of 6 to 19, while the club expanded its brand to Cairo, Egypt in 2008. Santos FC a unregistered trademark Soccer Academy in Orlando, Florida is another one of the club's international branches. In Hong Kong, Neen Lung created the group Neen and the Santos Boys, a group of Chinese and Hong Kongers who dedicate themselves to watch Santos matches. Santos is one of Brazil's most economically powerful and richest football clubs. It had an annual turnover of $45.1 million in 2011 and became one of the most valuable clubs, worth over $86.7 million. That same year, Santos' squad became the most valued in South America, being worth over $82 million, surpassing every club in the Dutch Eredivisie and the English Football League Championship, most of the clubs in Portugal's Primeira Liga, Ukraine's Premier Liga, Turkey's Zar 1/4 League, Russia's Premier League and France's Ligue 1, as well as over half the clubs in Germany's Fußball Bundesliga, Italy's Serie A, Spain's La Liga and England's Premier League. Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer, a secondary sponsor of the official Copa Libertadores video game, featured Santos in the video game Pro Evolution Soccer 2012. This is the first time that the club is being featured on a video game. The flamboyant, attacking style of play adopted by this team was a constant, worldwide exhibition that saw Santos travel in over 50 countries at every continent. The club's focus on commercial and sporting success brought significant profits in an industry often characterized by chronic losses. The strength of the Santos brand was bolstered by its FIFA World Cup winners, especially Pelé copyright. Pelé copyright is hailed as a national hero. He is known for his accomplishments and contributions to the game of football. He is also acknowledged for his vocal support of policies to improve the social conditions of the poor. During his career, he became known as the King of Football, the King Pelé copyright, or simply the King. Supporters, Santos is one of the most popular clubs in Brazil. Santos has fans in all states of Brazil and fans in several different countries around the world. According to a survey published on February 2, 2006 conducted by the research firm Institute Data Folha to measure which was the favorite football team in Brazil, Santos is the fourth club most popular. According to the results, Santos was preferred by 4% of the Brazilian population, which represents approximately 10 million fans only in Brazil. It is estimated that the Santos FC has worldwide nearly 20 million fans and admirers scattered throughout Africa, Europe, North America and Latin American countries. There are also several Santos-organized fan clubs of football factories, among them Torcida Jovem do Santos, São Jovem, and Fora Section a Jovem Santos. Santos is one of the clubs with the largest number of members in Brazil, currently has over 70,000 members. Rivalries: Santos have a historic rivalry with São Paulo, Corinthians and Palmeiras, clubs from São Paulo city. The biggest rivalry against São Paulo is known as São Paulo, and are biggest clubs in São Paulo and Brazil in titles. The derby between Corinthians and Santos is known as Clássico Alvinegro, because of the colors of both teams, and the derby between Palmeiras and Santos is known as Clássico da Saudade. Popular culture: the club has been featured in several documentary and semi-documentary films such as Guadalajara 70, Uma História Rio de Futebol, Doga Poundal Calabresa, and Boleiros. Former players have also been published, most notably Pelé copyright, but others have appeared in films such as Ginga. Santos was the featured club in the film Asa Branca, Sonho Brasileiro, a story of a modest but talented soccer player for Santos and reaches stardom. Pelé copyright appeared, alongside other footballers of the 1960s and 1970s, with Michael Caine, and Sylvester Stallone, in the 1981 film Escape to Victory, about an attempted escape from a World War II German POW camp. The club has become a symbol of Jogo Bonito in football culture. This was largely thanks to the Peixe's golden generation of the 1960s, the Santisticos, considered by some the best club team of all times. The club has many local celebrities in its fan group, such as Brazilian singer Mariana Bila copyright M, current governor of São Paulo Geraldo Alckmin, current governor of Federal District Agnello Queiroz, prosecutor Luz Antonio Mary, director, writer, actor and television host Marcelo Taz and Danielle Zangrando, gold and bronze judo medalist at the 2007 Pan American Games and 1995 World Judo Championships, respectively. Bob Marley, a famous Jamaican singer-songwriter and musician and the most widely known and revered performer of reggae music, played a practice match with Santos in 1980 along with the ska, rocksteady and reggae band Bob Marley and the Wailers. Bob Marley even wore the Santos uniform. The film Santos, a special by Mercado Livre, was published in 2011, which talks about the most successful moments of the club during its coming centenary. Players. Brazilian teams are limited to 3 players without Brazilian citizenship. The squad list includes only the principal nationality of each player. Some players on the squad have dual citizenship with another country. Current squad, as of January 25, 2014. Note: flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Reserve players. Note: flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Out on loan. Note: flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Personnel, current technical staff, see also List of Santos FC managers. Management. Honors. Historically, Santos is Brazil's second most successful team, having won 9 domestic trophies, and one of the most recognized football clubs in the world, having won 8 international trophies, making them the 6th most successful team in South America, and the Intercontinental Champions Super Cup title. Intercontinental Cup, 1962, 1963, Intercontinental Super Cup, 1968, Continental, Copa Libertadores, 1962, 1963, 2011, Copa CONMEBOL, 1998, Recopa Sudamericana, 2012, National, Campeonato Brasileiro XR Copyright RIE, 1961, 1962, 1963, 1964, 1965, 1968, 2002, 2004, Copa do Brasil, 2010, Torneio São Paulo, 1959, 1963, 1964, 1966, 1997, Regional, Campeonato Paulista, 1935, 1955, 1956, 1958, 1960, 1961, 1962, 1964, 1965, 1967, 1968, 1969, 1973, 1978, 1984, 2006, 2007, 2010, 2011, 2012, Copa Paulista de Futebol, 2004, doubles and trebles, the double, domestic double, state and cup, 2010, state and league, 1961, 1964, 1965, 1968. Continental double, state and Copa Libertadores, 2011 League and Copa Libertadores, 1963. The treble, Continental treble, state, League and Copa Libertadores, 1962. Especially short competitions such as the Recopa Sudamericana, Intercontinental Cup, or FIFA Club World Cup are not generally considered to contribute towards a double or treble. Statistics and records. Pelé copyright holds the record for most Santos appearances, having played 1106 of first-team matches from 1956 to 1974. Pepe comes second, having played 750 times. The record for a goalkeeper is held by Manga, with 404 appearances. 5 other players also have more than 500 appearances: Zito, Lima, Dorval, Ida and Clodoaldo. Pelé copyright is Santos's all-time top goal scorer, with 1091 goals. 4 other players have also scored over 200 goals for Santos: Pepe, Coutinho, Danilo Guerreiro and Peixe Secciono. Serginho Chulapa holds the record for the most Brasileirão goals scored in one season for the club. Peixe Secciono's 31 goals in the 1931 Campeonato Paulista was, for 2 decades, the one-season highest tally record in the Campeonato Paulista, until it was surpassed by Pelé copyright in 1958, which still stands today. Officially, The highest home attendance figure for a Santos match is 132,728, which was for a football cup competition, the Intercontinental Cup, in 1963. Santos has also set records in Brazilian football, most notably the most domestic titles and the most seasons won in a row. Santos is the joint most successful Brazilian team in the Copa Libertadores, winning the 1962, 1963 and 2011 editions. It is also the only Brazilian club outside Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, Belo Horizonte and Porto Alegre to win an international tournament. Santos is Brazil's joint second in Copa Libertadores semi-final appearances with 7 in total. The club is also the first Brazilian side to win the Copa Libertadores without losing a single match during the 1963 season. In 1962, Santos became the first club in the world to win the Continental Treble consisting of the Paulista, Tour section of Brazil, and the Copa Libertadores. That same year, it also became the first football club ever to win 4 out of 4 competitions in a single year, thus completing the quadruple, comprising the aforementioned treble and the Intercontinental Cup. Sections in other sports: Santos FC, Santos FC Caracas, Santos FC Futebol da Mesa, Santos FC Futsal, Santos FC Goalball, Santos FC Judo, Santos FC Taekwondo, Santos FC Tenista Mesa, Santos FC Tsunami, Santos FC Volleyball. See also Santos FC at Wikipedia. Books, Santos FC and the Brazilian national football team. References. Further reading. Filmography. External links. Official website, Santos Futebol Clube's channel on YouTube, Portuguese, Santos Futebol Clube at FIFA, French, German, Portuguese, Spanish, Santos Futebol Clube at Sempre Pex, the official club encyclopedia, Santos Futebol Clube at Globo Esporte, Santos Futebol Clube at ESPN Soccernet.